Today I'm going to talk about this Multiplex Extra 300S. I know that this one is also available on the US market, and I think it's called like high-tech weekender. So it's a 1.2 meter Extra 300S, a really fun and interesting aerobatic RC plane. And this plane in particular is a really old design. I think this has been around for almost 10 years, but you can still purchase this one. So I think that speaks something about this being quite successful if you can run an RC plane for like 10 years and still continue to sell it. So I'm eager to get this one up in the air and to check out this Extra 300S. So let's go outside and fly this bird. This is an old RC plane, but it does actually fly really great. It does feature really thick wing core as all Extra 300s, so it's a great slow flying RC plane. And I'm doing 100% rate in this RC plane with around 30 or 40% expo. I have increased rudder authority to 120% just because I think the rudder is actually a little bit sloppy. So just give it more performance, especially when you like snap rolls and such. And I also noticed that when you do push this RC plane, I do get telemetry warnings. So I have the avian EC and the telemetry set for like 3.5 volts per cell. But I mean, I just back up on the throttle and then I don't have any more EC warnings. And just as all these aerobatic RC planes and vertical just fantastic, you can go around, just do loops and rolls and whatnot. It's a truly greatly behaved RC plane. It's also, in my opinion, it does feel really light in the air. As you can see, I mean, I have replaced the stock wheel pan, stock wheels. So I have a grass field wheels then. So in a way, this plane is just as easy to fly as the E-Flite RV7. Does have a nice speed also when you push it. You can make really tight rudder turns, even though I don't have enough authority compared then to the E-Flite Extra 300, which just had really crazy rudder authority. So this is something I can remedy just by moving the linkage for the control horn then on the rudder. And this flight is on a 4S 2200 mAh battery, and I discovered that you can get around 6 minutes of flight time, which I think is just great. And so far on the few flights I've done on this Extra 300 then, I haven't experienced any bad flying behavior. It's just been accepting everything I'm doing with ease. You can definitely say that this is a more nimble and smaller RC plane than the E-Flite Extra 300. It does handle more, like I said, like an RV7 when you fly it. And when you have a symmetrical wing, it doesn't matter if you fly upside down on the right side. The plane just behaves just as good in any direction you go in. Now that's something I, at least in the beginning when I started to fly these aerobatic RC planes with a symmetrical wing in the middle of the fuse, I had a little problem just to get my head around them. But once I did, I just discovered that they are just great fun. That's just another plane type in my toolbox. I mean, I really love low-wing RC planes. I really love high-wing and biplanes. And now I also love this symmetrical wing. Let's do another snap roll then. It's really easy and fun. And although I get these telemetry warnings, I mean, just back off the throttle and they go away. So it's nothing to worry about. And the stock ESC is actually a 50 amp, and now I have a 60 amp. I don't think it will matter that much really. But I already had the Avian in my toolbox, so I just thought it would be a good idea to make it to good use, and then I didn't have to use this odd multiplex connector then. And you can also do really nice touch and goes with this RC plane, which is, I don't know if you used to go to do like touch and goes with aerobatic RC planes, but I surely enjoy to fly this one just as I please.
Time remaining 1 minute.
And I could also compare this one to the E-Flite Commander MPD, which is a fantastic aerobatic RC plane. So I would say that this plane feels much lighter when you fly it than the Commander. Just more nimble when you fly it. And I really dig to fly the Commander. I think it's a fantastic flying RC plane. I dig that it does feature flaps. But this one is just, it's a fun RC plane to bring. And I'm less worried when I fly this one and then when I fly the Extra 300, just because this is more nimble, smaller, a little bit more lightweight. So it's about time to get this one down then. Can bounce just a little bit. A ground handling on grass field with these larger wheels and these landing gears, and just fantastic. It's a great and fun RC plane, this Multiplex. As you can see, I mean, this Extra 300S just flies fantastic. It's a really fun RC plane to fly. So, I mean, this is an old design, so of course there will be things that more modern RC planes is better when you assemble this RC plane. I can surely just compare this one also then to the Extra 300 from E-Flite, which is really nice RC plane. But first off, let's just do a short look at how to put this Multiplex Extra 300S together. First step to assemble this RC plane is to put the landing gears on. So you have 4 screws that screws in like a square shape. So these are self-tapping screws. Next step then is to mount the horizontal stabilizer. And it fits really nice. You have to use 1 screw to secure this stabilizer. After that comes the push rod for the elevator horn to the servo arm. Then you use a small screw with the 1.5mm head just to secure this push rod. Then you slide on the vertical stabilizer and use 2 screws. Now you discover that you have to use like a plier just to get them in the right position, because the fit and finish on this RC plane isn't that great really. So there are 2 screws to hold this piece. And then you click in the rudder piece. So 1 on top and 1 on bottom. Another push rod then for the rudder, so use the center hold on the horn and thread this one into the servo arm mounting place, and you have a similar screw as the one I use on the elevator with 1.5mm head. Just to screw this one in, make it tight. You can make adjustments later. And then we have like the springs for the tail wheel, and these holes are wasn't really good, so I had to work them just to get this piece in. So this construction is a little bit like on the air tractor and the clip wing cab then from E-Flite. And then just remove the top compartment hatch and put in the wings, the wing spar, and one of the wing halves. You have to fiddle a little bit with the cable
So these servo cables from aileron are usually short on all RC planes. So this takes a little bit of fiddling just to get this cable in the right position. And then we have the other side. Same thing, just thread it on the wing spar. Just trying to get this cable in the right position. And this plane doesn't come with a Y cable, so you do have to provide one yourself, which I think is a little bit cheap. I mean, a Y cable costs next to nothing. Now everything is there, so you just have to use a plier just to grab this servo connector and push in the last piece, the last bit on this wing half. And this plane uses a MPX connector, which I have to replace, so I opted just to actually remove the cowl. And in the process, I mean, this magnet just came loose right off, so I would be careful just to check all the glue joints on this RCL plane. Not a good sign really, but with a bit of hot glue, just putting this one in again. I think it's a quite easy repair, but it's always sad when you have to repair an RCL plane when you assemble it, so that's just not good in my opinion. And in general, this RCL plane, I mean, it's not really too great. It's an old design, you can tell it. So I have an Avian 60 amp EC that I'm putting in this RCL plane. So just remove the motor and then just put this one in. It's quite easy. You don't have to fiddle too much actually. Just put this one in and then hook up the cables, and the bullet connectors, they work fine for this 60 amp EC then from Avian. Inside, to hold the wing halves, are two really long screws, so you have to push them in. And the same thing here actually, there were kind of a foam pieces just being in the way, so it took a little bit of fiddling to get these two screws in. And then the last piece, which you actually should do after you have set up the RCL plane, is to mount the prop and the spinner. There's a prop adapter, there's a back plate, you have the prop, you have a washer, and then you have like a nut to secure these pieces. Then just get this one in the right groove, and then I have this kind of special tool just to tighten it. And as usual, tighten it good enough, but not really over tighten it, as you can break the prop adapter. And then after that, just make sure that it spins freely. And then you have the spinner cone. It's all plastic, and you have one screw just to secure the cone. So be sure to make it tight so it doesn't vibrate and get loose.
As you saw, there are just a few minor things when you assemble this RCL plane, and it's an old design, so of course you can expect this one to be less perfect than, let's say, a new E-Flite RCL plane, which does have, you know, just quick connectors and everything just thoughtful really well. But I'm glad that this one doesn't feature any glue when you assemble this RCL plane, so compare them to the E-Flite Extra 300. This, in my opinion, is a much better RCL plane. First off, because you don't have to use any glue, so you can disassemble this RCL plane. Second of all, I think that this size of 1.2 meter, it's a little bit lighter, a little bit smaller. And I think that the Extra 300 from E-Flite, it's a really large RCL plane. Actually, the largest if you just look at the shape of the RCL plane I've purchased. So this one is more suited to me. I think that the Extra 300, the design of it with the checkerboard underside and the yellow, is a really nicely looking RCL plane and easy to orientate in the sky. But I also think that this red and white design, it's more generic, I know, but it's also really easy to see in the sky. And I mean, I think it looks great. A stupid thing then is that Multiplex didn't include a pilot, so you do have a really nice instrument panel inside, but due to this canopy being put on so nicely, and if I were to remove this one, I mean, I just have to destroy like the great look of this RCL plane. So it's a bummer that a pilot isn't included. I think that's a really minus on this RCL plane. I've done a few modifications on mine. So first off, you can see that I have tape around the battery hatch, and I know from experience that you will scrape off paint around this edge. So this just to make it last a little bit longer. I also have put on other wheels because although I think that when you have like wheel pans and the stock look of this RC airplane, it does look more like a real Extra 300S. But these are 3.5-inch Dubrow wheels, and with these wheels I have much better grass operations. And if I just would choose between having great grass operational RC airplane or more scale-like, I would certainly just pick grass operation. So functionality does trump look actually in this regard. Also on this RC airplane there are just plastic gear servos, which I think is kind of strange because this is a aerobatic RC airplane and you will push it and you will push the servos when you do like snap rolls and such. So in my opinion then you should have metal gear servos on all RC airplanes. It's kind of, I mean, they doesn't cost that much more, but you have a much more better RC airplane that will last longer. So that's a little bit of a bummer. I also think that when you have like these landing gears, they are much stiffer than on the E-Flite Extra 300. And when you have kind of lightweight RC airplane, you have kind of stiff gears. Of course, this plane will bounce more when you do land, if you have more rougher landings or just not perfect landing. So the best thing then when you're about to land this RC airplane is actually to have speed and have a really shallow glide slope. And then I think you will be down in a good way. And I'm doing mostly grass takeoff and landings. And then the grass do, of course, absorb more than you have hard surface. So on hard surface, this plane, I suspect will bounce more. So, I mean, I had a lot of fun with this RC airplane. I really dig the prop noise on this Extra 300. And as you see then, I have the Avian 60 amp EC inside, so I do have a good connector, and this one does come with the multiplex connector, which isn't compatible with any battery except for, I guess, then multiplex batteries. And I also have an AR6 30 receiver mount on the side. So it was kind of an easy and simple construction. I'm a little bit bummed that they didn't include a Y cable to hook up the ailerons, because if you do have the ailerons hook up to one channel, it's much easier when you just, if you remove the wings and put them back in again, you don't have to keep in mind which aileron went to which channel on the receiver. So, I mean, a few thoughts then about this really old Multiplex Extra 300S, but I really dig to fly this one. I think it's just a fantastic one in the air. It's easy, it's lightweight, it looks great. It's a great package. So that's just my opinions then about this RC airplane.